Let's go ahead and we're going to call the business meeting of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Tuesday, January 16th, 2024, and we are meeting in a totally virtual format because of the weather tonight. So everyone, if you could just take a moment to update your titles on your Zoom boxes. If you can add your pronouns in your district, that would be wonderful, just to help folks orient to who is in the call. With that, Deputy Superintendent Townsend, would you please call the roll?
Yep. Member Ali. Okay. Member Billiard. Vice Chair Bondo.
Sorry, present.
Okay, here we go. So microphone checked. Roll call mic check. Member Bryden.
Here.
Member Figdor. Member Grant.
Here.
Member Noor.
Here.
Member Opperman.
Here.
Student Representative Kintiba. Student Representative Knight. Student Representative McDonald. Student Representative Rosado.
Here.
Student Representative Moriwa. Student Representative Kunku. Chair Lentz.
Present. I know a couple of student representatives were having issues with Zoom, so hopefully we'll get them here shortly. But now we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And usually when we're virtual, we put up a graphic. We'll wait a couple of moments for that. Thank you very much. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
One
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. The Portland Public Schools recognizes the original inhabitants of the land on which our city and schools stand. The Wolastoqiyik or Maliseet, Micmac, Penobscot, and Passamaquoddy tribes, known collectively as the Wabanaki Confederacy or People of the Dawnland. We're honored to have Wabanaki children among our students today, and as a district, we are committed to making the past, present, and future of Wabanaki peoples visible in our schools and classrooms. As a reminder of our mission, the Portland Public Schools is responsible for ensuring a challenging, relevant, and joyful education that empowers every learner to make a difference in the world. We believe relationships among families, educators, and the community to promote the healthy development and academic achievement of every learner. Now we're going to move into public comment. So if you would like to give public comment, please raise your Zoom hand. I'm not going to go over the the regulations and guidelines if we don't have anyone here to give public comment tonight. So I'll just give a couple more beats. Oh, great. Board Member Figdor is here as well. And Board Member Ali is also here. Okay, I see no public comment. So I'm going to go ahead and move into my remarks. First, I just want to acknowledge I'm recovering from COVID, so my voice will likely do some weird things tonight. That's just the way my body is built. So I've got a lot of lozenges, but hopefully you'll be able to hear me tonight, but I just want to acknowledge the first couple of snow days that we have had this year, and just to remind folks where when we do have changes to our schedule because of snow, how we make those decisions and also how we inform the community. So we work very closely with the city on those decisions. They aren't anything that we make in isolation, and there's not one person who is making all the decisions around that. We work with our transportation department, our operations department, our food services all of the departments are kind of in that conversation to make sure that students can get to and from school safely. And when those decisions are made, they're communicated by text message and email. Well, actually, not every school does a text message, but there is a call in the early morning, and there are emails as information comes out. So this morning, folks probably got several emails about the school day and then aftercare and programs like that. So our idea is that we get out as much information when we have it to let you know so you can start planning. And as more information becomes available, that rolls out as well. And just wanted to remind folks to use our website as well, because that is a hub for information. It will often be in the banner at the top of the homepage, any relevant information about changes in schedule. So just to remind folks about that. And, I think last week there were some sidewalks that were not cleared. The city ran into a lot of issues with their equipment. And so just reminding folks that, again, we are a community, and as much as we can shovel our own sidewalks in a timely manner, that helps the city, which helps us be able to make sure that kids can get to school safely, where they can get meals and be around caring adults all day. So just thank you for all of your involvement in those decisions, and I hope everybody is staying warm. In other, some really, really great news, we transitioned last week fully to our new payroll system, ADP. So I just wanted to take a moment to really thank all of the people that made that happen over literally the last year that has been working. From Deputy Superintendent Townsend, who started that process last spring, to now Superintendent Scallon, Barrett Wilkinson, Helene, our CFO, all of those people, our HR department, who have literally been working around the clock to make sure that we met that deadline, and who also have just really done an excellent job communicating with the community about what hiccups to expect, how to get things solved. And so we did see a few hiccups and small issues, but overall, and I think Ryan will speak to this a little bit later, overall, it was a very smooth transition, and I feel incredibly proud that we have moved ourselves to this, because what we did is basically, by moving to this new system, we automated so much and took out a lot of user error. So hopefully this really helps with the foundation that we are building to ensure that our operations are incredibly strong moving forward. So again, I'm super proud of us, and also just so thankful for the people that didn't give up even when it was really hard, and continued to move us forward into this really strong position with ADP. So thank you for that. I also just wanted to acknowledge yesterday being Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I hope that everyone was able to take some space to reflect on his teachings. I listened to a lot of speeches yesterday with my kiddo, and that was kind of a space that we had some learning, but it helps. It also, every year on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I also try to think about all the people that came before Martin Luther King Jr. and all the people that came after and who are still fiercely and fearlessly working to make sure that everyone has access to the same civil rights, especially in this climate, as we're seeing, numerous rights be rolled back in a lot of places across the country. So just want to acknowledge his legacy and all the ways that this district upholds it, especially proud of, our local Black Studies curriculum that is under development and hopefully will be rolled out soon, so that all of our students can access kind of the history of the really wonderful activists, Black activists that we've had across the state of Maine. And finally, I just wanted to congratulate the cast of Shrek who had their musical this past weekend. Unfortunately, I couldn't go because I had COVID, but I saw a lot of pictures and it looked just amazing. So good work, everybody that was involved with that production. And now I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Scallon.
Thank you very much, Board Chair. As you mentioned, our comments are going to be pretty aligned and echo each other. And so there we go. So good evening, all board members. members of the community and staff that have joined us. It's hard to believe that we are at the halfway point of the year as our high school students complete midterms and we prepare for grades and the start of the second semester. As we recognize Martin Luther King Jr. and his work yesterday, I want to take a moment to recognize the work that the district has done and the work that is in front of us to make sure that all students leave prepared and empowered. When I was interviewing for this position, I was struck by how much the Portland Promise has meant to members of the board, the staff, and the community. The intentional focus on equity was a significant reason why I was excited to join the Portland community. As we are midway through our strategic planning process, I am energized that the equity commitment has continued to remain as a centerpiece of the plan and is named in the first priority. And so very excited that we are continuing with the equity focus and the work in our strategic planning process. Speaking of the strategic planning process, at this time, we have hosted focus groups with a number of different constituent groups, including our family and community partnership group, an evening with multilingual families, representatives from PTOs across the city, a focus group with our leaders at the school and district level, a teacher advisory group, as well as a second teacher group. To be honest with you, and I take ownership and responsibility for this is below what was originally desired, but I think our ambitions caught up with the reality of all of the demands on our time. And so it was lower in this first round than was originally intended. That said, there's still an opportunity for members of the community to share feedback on the initial draft. There is a survey available on our website and on the banner that is open through January 30th. And we will do a second round of focus groups in mid-February, where the hope is that members of the steering committee will be able to also help facilitate those focus groups, which will expand the number that we're able to run and to hold in February. As the board chair shared, we've officially made the transition to our new payroll system. This was a significant milestone, and as you recognized, a credit to many people who have not just led the work, but also felt some of the bumps and bruises along the way. And so I want to acknowledge that so far there have not been any system-wide or position-wide challenges. And so at a high level, things are looking good with the transition. At the same time, there are individuals who have had their pay impacted, either back pay that we couldn't process in the first one, or that's an old pay ticket that just couldn't be processed in the first round, or that their individual information, and it's a small number of folks, but that their individual information was not correct in the new system. And so those things have come to light, following the same process that we've had in place all year for individuals to complete tickets, and payroll is prepared to address those issues in our next payroll run. Last, I want to acknowledge that the high school preference process closed on Friday. We are currently analyzing the data and we'll share an update with you and the community at our next board meeting. That concludes my comments for tonight.
Thank you. And up next, we're going to have the consideration and action to approve the meeting minutes of January 2nd, 2024. Let me just get, are there any corrections to these meeting minutes from January 2nd, 2024? And if there are, you can raise your Zoom hand and offer an amendment. Okay. I see no hands. So if there are no corrections, the minutes are approved as distributed. And next, we're going to have our consent items. So Deputy Superintendent, you want to take that?
Yep. Yep. Excuse me. Under Board Policy KCD, the school board accepts by unanimous consent contributions made to the school district of durable goods of significant value and of symbolic importance. As required by policy, all of the donations are listed in the board memo by name and donation accompanying this item. Our practice is that each donor receives a written contribution acknowledgement expressing our heartfelt gratitude and for their tax purposes. So with that, I would like to thank the following donors. The Roper family and Superior Roofing donated labor, materials, and roofing supplies and shingles for the renovation and repair of the Memorial Stadium concessions and team building roof and support. Gerald E. Talbot Community School received the following donations from the Talbot office staff. They donated pull-on pants and sweatpants for student use, and Alex Burns donated winter gloves. Thank you to all of our many contributors. We're very grateful for their support of our work.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Deputy Superintendent Townsend. And now we're going to move into some old business. And just a reminder, these three policies that are up for a vote tonight, this is their second read that we will be seeing. So that means that they've already been workshopped within the Policy and Curriculum Committee, came here for a first read for any feedback, and now we're voting on them. So up first, we have the consideration and action to approve changes to policy GCFB and GCFB-R, which is the recruiting and hiring of administrative staff. So do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Figdor. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Opperman. Any questions on the motion? I'm toggling back and forth between a couple documents, so make some noise if you have your hand up and I don't see you. So seeing no questions on the motion, I'm going to move to public comment. If you would like to give public comment on this motion, please raise your Zoom hand. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Any board discussion on this policy? Okay, seeing no hands, let's go ahead and move into a vote. Deputy Superintendent Townsend, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Member Ali,
I approve. Yes.
Vice Chair Bondo,
Yes.
Member Bryden,
Yes.
Member Figdor,
Yes.
Member Grant,
Yes.
Member Noor,
Yes.
Member Opperman,
Yes.
Student Representative Kantiba,
Yes.
Student Representative Rosado,
Yes.
and Chair Lentz.
Yes, so the policy passes unanimously with the students voting with the majority. So up next, we have the consideration and action to approve changes to policy GCOA, which is supervision and evaluation of professional staff. So is there a motion to approve the changes to this policy?
I move.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bondo. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Bryden. Are there any questions on the motion? Again, please put your Zoom hand up if there are any questions.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. A quick question. Is there or can there be some type of like survey for students at the end of the school year or at the end of like a class, time to give feedback on the teacher, the curriculum that can be added to, the evaluation of the teacher and the course together?
Thanks, Member Ali. That is something we would need to engage with, PEA, our collective bargaining partners, to kind of consider. We work in partnership with them to kind of develop, the evaluation protocol. It is broadly, considered education policy, but we are required to kind of meet and consult and develop some of that work together. And I think as I spoke about briefly last week, we had begun some changes to our process that we've been in kind of process of implementing kind of a pilot. And certainly as we kind of come back together, as we identify, timeline for finalizing that within the context of our strategic plan, we could consider, bring back to the table in partnership with them any of those ideas or other ideas. So it's not something unilaterally we could decide. We would want to engage with them kind of through that process. And then ultimately, in line with kind of the timing and the strategic plan, we'll bring back the revised process to the full board for update and approval.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and move to public comment. If you would like to give public comment, you can raise your Zoom hand. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Is there any board discussion? Excuse me. This is where an amendment would be offered, if there is one. Okay, seeing no board discussion, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote, please.
Member Ali?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bondo?
Vice Chair Bondo, did you get a vote on that, Erin? And I missed it.
I say yes.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Bondo. Member Bryden?
Yes.
Member Figdor?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Noor?
Yes.
Member Opperman?
Yes.
Student Representative Kentiba?
Yes.
Student Representative Rosado?
Yes.
And Chair Lentz.
Yes, so the motion passes unanimously with the student representatives voting with the majority. And lastly, up tonight for old business, we have the consideration and action to approve changes to policy GCOC, which is the evaluation of administrators. So is there a motion to approve the changes to this policy? Thank you, Board Member Bryden. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Opperman. Sorry, Board Member Noor, I'll get you next time. Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, seeing no questions, move to public comment. If you'd like to give public comment on this policy, please raise your Zoom hand. I'm going to close public comment, seeing no hands. Is there any board discussion? Okay, then we're going to move to roll call vote, please, Deputy Superintendent.
Member Ali?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bondo?
Yes.
Member Bryden?
Yes.
Member Figdor?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Noor?
Yes.
Member Opperman?
Yes.
Student Representative Kentiba?
Yes.
Student Representative Rosado?
Yes.
And Chair Lentz.
Yes, so that policy, that motion passes unanimously with the student representatives voting with the majority of board members. So thank you very much, Policy and Curriculum Committee, for moving these policies along. Deep appreciation for your thoughtfulness and that we're moving so many of them to updated language. So thank you for that. Now we're going to move into some new business, which is the consideration and action to approve the superintendent's proposed fiscal year 25 capital improvement plan. And again, so this is new business. So it has spent the last couple of finance committee meetings being workshopped and interrogated at the committee level. And so it's here now for the general board. So Superintendent Scallon, are you going to be speaking to this tonight?
I'm going to speak very briefly at the front of it, and then I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director of Operations, Dr. Warren, and to our Assistant Director of Facilities, Mr. Watson. So just really quickly, a thank you to our finance, personnel, facilities, catch-all committee for helping us workshop this over the last couple of months. The capital improvement projects that we are going to present to you. This is work that we believe is essential to make sure that our buildings remain safe, warm, dry, welcoming places for students. We also are going to acknowledge that there's way more work that we could put into here. And so we tried to prioritize work that we believed was most pressing, that we could accomplish in the time frame, and that balance that need to also be fiscally responsible. And so we'll be sharing that. And so Dr. Warren will provide both an update on where we're at in overall with our SIP process, the proposal of new projects to bond in partnership with the city, and also get any feedback from you before we take it for a vote at our next meeting. So with that, I'll pass it over to our operations and facilities team.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Scallon. I'm going to start out with a brief overview of where we are now with regard to previously funded capital improvement projects and where we're hoping to go in terms of our recommended new asks. So this is just a snapshot, an overview, and in a second, I'm going to flip to a chart that actually shows the drill down of this in more detail. So in summary, we're asking for, and again, I will get into a lot more detail about the ask, but a little over $3 million for the FY25 CIP cycle. When we think about that work and the potential for carrying it out, we are also taking into account the work that we have already had approved through CIP, and that breaks down into several different categories that you see here. Some of that work has been funded, but for a variety of reasons that I'll talk about in a few minutes, has not begun yet. So in other words, it's approved, but we haven't started. There are some projects that are in the design phase still, and before moving on to procurement, the design has to be completed. There are some that are in the procurement process, meaning we're working with the city to find the appropriate vendors to work on something. There's some amount of the work that's under construction and a little bit of work that's in post-construction. So these numbers that I'm showing you now don't actually take into account the $64 million bond that we have been working with to support our Buildings for the Future projects at 4 schools. So this is focused on CIP. So let me pause on this document for just a second and show you what the drill down looks like. Oops. Spent a lot of time trying to make peace with Zoom today, so hopefully it will pan out. Okay. So the spreadsheet that you see here, which also was provided in board docs, so if you would prefer to look at it in a different way, you can do that. But what you're seeing here is a full sort of detailed overview of all the different projects at all the different stages, as well as all of the proposed projects. So you see in red anything that we have proposed as a potential new project. And in a minute, I'll show you which of those proposed projects we're actually recommending for this year to take forward. So in green, you see the things that I mentioned before have been approved or funded, but not yet begun. Purple reflects something in construction. Blue are things that are in the procurement phase. Orange is design. Gray is post-construction. When you look through this full list, which obviously quite lengthy, it's organized by school. But the other thing you see here is the year that a project was approved. So if you get really interested in digging deeper into this, you can look at the chart and reorganize it by year. So here you'll see, for example, that the fire alarm upgrade was approved for funding during the 2017 CIP cycle. That project is currently under construction. It's it's an evolving process that's continuously under review. And if I move forward here, you will see where we landed in terms of those red proposed projects. Sorry, it looks like there's a typo here. These are all recommended projects on this screen, so that's a typo or a mislabel. But this is the list of final recommended projects that we'll go through in much more detail in this presentation. So again, broken out by school, by the particular type of project, the amount, and this is the list that gets us to the just over $3 million ask. Let me stop sharing again. I will go back to our presentation. Oops. Okay. So again, this is the summary. The recommended new is that last list that we just looked at. So those are the projects that we're proposing to have funded in FY25. When we look at that list of things that are not yet done that have already been funded, there are a number of different reasons why we are in that stage where we are right now. It's reasonable to ask why something that was funded in 2017 is just in construction right now. And it really is a combination of factors. The progress of things was certainly slowed by the pandemic. That affected a lot of things. There was also a heavy prioritization of our Building for the Future projects, which are nearing completion now, and it's really exciting and important work for those 4 schools and for our district as a whole. And there's a limit to the capacity. We work together with our facilities team and relevant folks in the city offices, and at certain points, it has been hard to move some of the work forward as fast as we would like to. As we are looking at this list at this point, we have a fantastic team on board. And I should have started out by saying that Tamara Sweeney is really the brain behind all of this, what I'm presenting tonight. She is our fantastic facilities director. She is taking a very well-deserved break right now. And so Scott Watson, her equally fantastic deputy, is here with me tonight because he may have some of the more technical answers to questions that I don't have. But many kudos and thanks to Tamara for all of her hard work on this and our facilities work in general. So one of the things that Tamara has done is to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to make our process more efficient, to speed up the work, but also to remain focused on the things that have to be done first. And one of the highest priorities for the moment is the things where we have matching grant funding from the School Revolving Renovation Fund. That money will run out at the end of September, so we have to make sure we get those projects done. And as typical, we will always be focused on the issues related to safety and security. As we think about where we're heading over the coming months and the coming year, the new budget cycle, we're also thinking about the best way to staff this work to ensure that we can keep it moving at the fastest pace we can while also doing a great job with it. As we turn towards the FY25 ask, as Ryan said earlier, the focus is really above all on safe, warm, and dry. As you could see from the list that I just shared a couple of minutes ago, there are a lot of needs. So there were over $6 million in our proposed list, and we could have frankly kept going and adding more things to the proposed list. It's not like there is a shortage of things that we need to be working on, but we need to focus. We can't take an endless list to the city when we take our CIP proposal to them. And so we've really tried to zero in on those things that we think fall in that category of safe, warm, and dry. And when we talk about safe, we're talking about things like the security cameras, like door access controls, electricity, lighting repairs. Warm is primarily about heating equipment, and dry at this point is focused mostly on leaks coming through our exterior walls that really need to be fixed. So these projects come through a combination of the comprehensive facilities assessment that was conducted for the district by Sebago Technics back in 2016. That is available to anyone in the public to look at on our website under the facilities tab. So if people want to dig into that, you can. But a lot of the things on this list come from there, or they come from things that our staff have identified just through day-to-day work. So I'm going to dive in and just give a little bit more detail on each of the projects that landed on that recommended list so that you understand why we chose those things, what the rationale was. And then we'll talk a little bit about how this process moves forward with the city. So the first thing on the list is this Lincoln Middle School replacement of the heating system, which is a very significant project and also an incredibly important one. Frankly, it should have been done before. The only reason it wasn't done sooner is because there was another breakdown of equipment at Paths and the boilers there, so that ended up being prioritized. But we have had breakdowns of the Lincoln equipment as recently as, I think, about 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. And again, that's an $800,000 project. At Casco Bay High School and Paths, there, you will know this when you attend in-person board meetings because we go back outside of that building in the dark. There's a need to repair underground cables, which were apparently buried under the ground without a conduit, which is a no-no. I'm not an electrician, but it leaves the wires exposed, and so they've been deteriorating. And because of that, the lights in the parking lot don't work. It's a very dark parking lot, and it's a safety issue. Lyman Moore Middle School has an issue at the entrance. Folks who are familiar with that school will remember that when you walk in, you sort of walk straight into the lobby, and then that goes straight into the school, and the administrative suite is off to the left. But we need to put in a proper vestibule where the school administrators or the front office staff can buzz people in and then, decide whether to let them beyond the vestibule. We have it in our other schools. This was something that was identified by the 2016 assessment. It should have, according to that assessment, and the plan that they put forward should have been done by 2022, but it just hasn't made it onto the top of the list yet. So we're prioritizing that as we work on our comprehensive emergency management plan, making sure that we're addressing some of these more significant security issues is really important to us. Talbot Community School, they don't have security cameras at all, so that's a safety issue for us. We, again, want to make sure that we're addressing some of those bigger issues as we're working on our emergency management plan. We've had requests from Talbot at times. They've had some issues with vandalism around the school and the like, and we have had no ability to provide them with security footage. Deering High School, another underground cable issue. This one, I think, also has to do with the way that it connects into the school. So this is the primary electrical cable coming into the building. It was identified in the 2016 assessment, and at that point, the equipment was said to be obsolete, and now we're in 2023. This is, just a matter of wanting to fix something before it becomes a very big problem. And that would be a fairly major problem if we lost our electrical connection. Also at Deering, there are leaks in the exterior walls, so water coming in through the outside of the building, which is obviously not good. This is another one that was identified in the 2016 assessment as needing attention. Oops. There's a server at Deering High School that actually provides the access or the supports the camera systems at Lincoln, Longfellow, Rowe, as well as Deering itself. And that is not, that's at the end of its life. So we need to replace that in order to ensure that all of those systems continue to function. Longfellow has water coming in through the exterior walls, which is especially frustrating because when you walk in, it's this beautiful school that just got fixed through our Buildings for Our Future work. And we want to make sure that we protect that we protect the building. And so making sure that we are addressing the water leakage is really essential. East End Community School is another one that needs cameras. They had a system, but it's now obsolete. It doesn't work at all. So effectively, they don't have cameras either. And then there are a number of schools. Deering is one that needs a particularly significant amount of upgrade, but there are issues that need to be sort of pinpointed and dealt with at a number of other schools related to the door access controls. So as we think about how this all moves forward, so tonight, this is obviously an opportunity for the school board to consider this proposal and reflect and ask questions. Ultimately, if our things move through to the city and the city manager would include our asks, if it makes sense, in the city's proposal, and then this goes to the city council. If we actually get this money, it's not free money. Let me put it that way. We end up having to pay for this. We pay for the principal and the interest. So this is a bond, effectively. It's not just a gift. And the example you see here is just intended to help kind of give a sense of what that looks like over time. It depends on, the mill rate and whatnot, but it's something that we would ultimately end up paying for over the life of the project. So obviously, we've passed the first milestone here. We appreciated the support we got with the committee and their helpful questions and feedback. So we adapted our proposal based on that. And then tonight, we're sharing this with you. I don't know, I think we've proposed a vote tonight, but I guess that will be up to you, Chair Lentz, whether we vote tonight or push to the next meeting for more consideration. But ultimately, we will move it on. Once approved by the board, it will go to the city council. The city manager will put it in with the rest of the city's proposal. And then it goes to the city council for review and a vote. So I talked a lot. Let me pause and see what questions people have.
And if folks want to raise their Zoom hand, I'll call on people as I see your hand. Vice Chair Bondo, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. So I'm just wonder about the 2021 proposed and funded project but not begun. So I just wonder about, when I see the time frame, the 2021 to now, and I know we mentioned a couple of reasons about the pandemic and prioritizing, the renovation of the building. So I just worry about the costs of the constructions material. So because we've been funding for a specific amount, and then we never even start the project yet. So now we just don't know when we're gonna start it. So do we have any other strategy in case we have to add some funds to make sure we can offset some those ending projects. I don't know if I'm making sense when I'm asking for, because I just look at the cost of the increase of the material of the construction.
Mhm.
And then we even didn't start the project yet, but we have the funds. So what are we projecting? What are we see ourselves as a strategy in case we need to have some additional money? Because I saw that with the building renovation with our 4 school bonds,
Right.
because of the costs, the increase of the construction, we have to, to keep adding more funds to make sure then the work is done.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I will first make a disclaimer, which is that I haven't gone through this process here before, but my understanding of it is that there is some flexibility within the funds available. There is, once we get to the procurement phase, we work with the city to identify the vendors and go through the full procurement process, and then figure out what the actual cost would be based on that procurement process. So my understanding is that there's some flexibility, but other folks here who've gone through the process before, if you want to weigh in, welcome other people's experience with that.
Board Member Victor, do you want to ask your question? And if you have any other context also, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, just in response to Ms. Bando's question and concern, just to clarify on the 4 school bond, we have not added any money to those projects. The voters, the school board proposed, and the city council and voters approved a $64 million bond, and we have done the work within that $64 million budget. And we are planning to make a presentation to the board at our next meeting on February 6th. So you have, we can bring those projects to a close, and the board is updated on our work. But we haven't added any money. The projects have come before the board when we've had to move money between the 4 school projects.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
But we've never added to the bottom line $64 million total. So just to clarify that, I do think that, it's these projects are always a little bit of a moving target because we have many school buildings and they have a lot of needs, and those needs, sometimes the urgency of the needs change. And we're able to then do our best to move forward with the plans that we put in place, based on our best assessment at the time, but also be able to respond to the most urgent needs. So I think this process, the CIP process, which is again separate from the 4 school bond, which was bonded for separate outside of the CIP process. But I do think the CIP process as well allows us to both meet the needs that we see today, but also then juggle urgent needs as they come up, because we can't always anticipate all the needs at our many and mostly very old school buildings. So I don't know if that helps at all, but
yeah. Thank you so much for adding that that nuance, because I wasn't expressing that well, Member Figdor. And I understand it the same way in terms of the CIP, that the bottom line won't change, but that there is some flexibility within the overall proposal, because things do change with time.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you, Member Victor. You just remind me exactly. That's the way we've been moving the money for the school renovation. Thank you. So I'm just going to say the process and to pay a little more attention about what's going to happen with those projects, because when I see we have almost our old building, but we keep just maintaining the building. But I think more we're getting longer and longer, we don't have a control about any construction. is that we are now building the safety and the warm place for our students. So my second question, I think that's a slide on between the Lincoln. I think we have some proposed. I think that's for the new proposed and recommended. I think on the Lincoln Middle School, and I think if I just see, yes, I think then when you just present, I heard, and we have to stop here because we have some emergency in Casco Bay, right?
Yeah. So, and again, I wasn't here at the time, but my understanding is that
Casco Bay or PAFs, yes. So I'm just wondering, do we do that this after? I just want to understand. Do we have different vendors for those specific construction, or we just using the same vendor? So while we have emergency on one place, we have to stop and go, start going to the emergency and path. And then did we come back to fix the Lincoln, or the work is not done because we need again to keep doing? So the work never been done, right? So when we move to fixing the emergency and path, we never went back to Lincoln, right? I just want to make sure.
Right. So Lincoln was on the, it was identified through the 2016 comprehensive assessment as a need and a priority, but it didn't actually make it onto the CIP proposed list until now. And it got sort of bumped from the list because of the paths boiler issue.
Okay, I got you. Okay, thank you so much. Make me more clarification. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bondo. And I apologize, I didn't realize you had multiple questions. So thanks for sticking with it. Board Member Bryden.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Warren, thank you so much for this great information. It's familiar from our, I think it was 2 committee meetings, but it's great to see. I have a quick question. So actually, one of my questions is on the slide that we're already viewing, or one of my comments, I guess. I wanted to just reiterate and express appreciation for what I had brought up in a couple of committee meetings around a desire to see staff research and look into sustainable choices for replacing our heating equipment whenever possible, both in terms of sustainability, but also in terms of long-term cost. Just recognizing that sometimes a bigger investment upfront can yield savings over the long term. So I really appreciate the terminology here that's a little bit more vague and generic and allows for whatever possibilities might be possible. Anyway, so thank you for that. And then also the slide, I think it was the slide that had to do with Deering and the electrical cable. I saw the date 2037, and I'm wondering if that is that accurate or a typo or?
It was from the assessment, and it's one of the things where there were some of the things they put in had very broad time spans. But we should go back and double check that one. I took it from our spreadsheet, but you're right. It looks a little funny. We should probably double check it. Okay. But I think the bottom line was that the team felt like in any event, this was not something that we should be waiting on. It was something to get done before it turns into a serious problem.
I agree. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Bryden. Board Member Figdor.
Thank you, Chair. And Ms. Bondo, I'm sorry if I interrupted you earlier or didn't let you get to all of your questions first. But I just wanted to acknowledge how grateful I am for this work that's gone into this presentation tonight, and the clarity in the challenge before us, both in the projects that we have bonded already, and also in coming forward with this very clear set of projects around safety, warmth, and one more variable that I'm forgetting.
Safe, warm, dry.
Thank you. Safe, warm, and dry. It's so catchy. I should not forget it.
That's the idea.
But, there's so much work that's needed and that is identified in the Sebago Technics report. There's so much work that is needed just to maintain our buildings, not to improve them, just to maintain them. So I just want to acknowledge this, and help put in context how much work went into this very thoughtful path forward for us, and also how deeply it's contextualized. And I really appreciate, we haven't ever seen before the project by project presentation like this. And I think it's really helpful to enable us as board members to fully understand the scope of work that we're aiming to undertake over the next year. So I just want to say thank you. I am strongly supportive of this package and really deeply appreciate all the work that's gone into bringing this forward. And I feel more confident that moving forward, not only will we be able to undertake these projects, but also the projects that we haven't been able to get to yet. So thank you, Sarah, and to the operations staff and to all the other staff who are supporting this work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Figdor. Are there any other questions from board members? Okay, then Dr. Warren and Superintendent Scallon, I am comfortable, seeing if we have a motion to bring this to vote tonight, but just wanted to double check that that was the plan that you had intended. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I messed up the preamble.
No, that's
Well,
fine.
we went back and forth on it, so yeah, that was fair. Yes, if you are ready to vote, we would very much welcome that.
Okay, beautiful. So just procedurally, we'll take a vote to skip a second read on this, and then we'll do a vote on moving this proposal forward. So is there a motion to skip a second read on this CIP proposal?
So moved.
Who was that?
Oh, Board Member Bryden says so moved.
Thank you, appreciate it. And is there a second? Board Member Figdor, any questions on the motion? Okay, then I'm going to move to public comment. Any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Any board discussion? All right, then let's go ahead and move into a roll call vote. Deputy Superintendent, this roll call vote is to show your favor of bypassing a second read on this CIP proposal.
Great. Member Ali?
I agree.
Vice Chair Bondo?
Yes.
Member Bryden?
Yes.
Member Figdor?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Noor?
Yes.
Member Opperman?
Yes.
Student Representative Kentiba?
Yes.
Student Representative Rosado?
Yes.
Chair Lenz?
Yes, so the motion passes unanimously with the student representatives voting with the majority. So we are going to skip a second read of this CIP, and so we're going to go to a motion. I will be looking for a motion to approve the superintendent's proposed FY25 capital improvement plan, the CIP plan. Is there a motion? Thank you, Board Member Bryden. We're going to do a second to Board Member Grant. Everybody's jumping in. I love it. Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, seeing no questions, I'm going to open it up to public comment. If you'd like to give public comment, please raise your Zoom hand. Okay, I see no hands. I'm going to close public comment. Any board discussion? No discussion. So we're going to move to roll call vote, please, Deputy Superintendent.
Member Ali?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bondo?
Yes.
Member Bryden?
Yes.
Member Figdor?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Noor?
Yes.
Member Opperman?
Yes.
Student Representative Kentiba?
Yes.
Student Representative Rosado,
Yes.
Chair Lentz.
Sorry, was that me?
Yep, Chair Lentz. Yep.
Sorry. Yes. So the motion passes unanimously with the student representatives voting with the majority. Again, I would like to echo Board Member Figdor's thanks that this has been a really thoughtful and intentional process, and you've really brought the board along with you. So thank you for all the work and for prioritizing these projects that are going to keep our kiddos safe, warm, and dry. Beautiful. And I'm going to move us into personnel next. So Barrett, do you want to talk to our election of teacher candidates, these probationary candidates?
Yep. First up, you have 2 probationary teachers who have been hired since our last cycle. Yep. 1.5 FTEs.
Thank you, Barrett. So do we have a motion to approve the personnel items listed? This is the election of the probationary teacher candidates. Is there a motion?
I move.
Board Member Vice Chair Bondo, second. Board Member Bryden, thank you very much. So we don't take public comment on personnel items. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, then by roll call vote, please indicate whether you are in favor of these personnel items. Deputy Superintendent, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Let's see. Sorry, get back to my roll call. Member Ali,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bondo,
Yes.
Member Bryden,
Yes.
Member Figdor,
Yes.
Member Grant,
Abstain.
Member Noor,
Yes.
Member Opperman,
Yes.
Student Representative Kentiba,
Yes.
Student Representative Rosado,
Yes.
and Chair Lentz.
Yes, so the motion passes with the student representatives voting with the majority. Board Member Grant abstained. And as a reminder, I think this might be our first personnel vote since we've had new board members join. Board Member Grant does not vote on personnel items given his position on council with the MEA, Maine Education Association. So now we're going to move to the consideration and action to approve personnel items of the one-year only candidates. Barrett, would you like to speak to this?
Yep. You have 2 one-year only teacher candidates before you for approval this evening.
Beautiful. So do I have a motion for the consideration and action to approve these personnel items? Thank you, Board Member Bryden. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Noor. We don't take any public comment on personnel items. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and move into roll call vote. Please indicate whether you are in favor of approving these one-year only teacher candidates.
Member Ali,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bondo,
Yes.
Member Bryden,
Yes.
Member Figdor,
Yes.
Member Grant,
Abstain.
Member Noor,
Yes.
Member Opperman, Member Opperman,
Yes.
thank you. Student Representative Kentiba,
Yes.
Student Representative Rosado,
Yes.
and Chair Lentz.
Yes, so the motion passes with Board Member Grant abstaining and the student representatives voting with the majority of the adult board members. Thank you so much for those. And so now we are going to move into executive session, but we need to bring it to a motion. And just as a reminder for folks, we move into executive session, we have executive session, and then we come back to this link to adjourn from this meeting. So this screen will go blank while we go into another a Google Meet, and then we'll come back here. So I will be looking for a motion for the consideration and action to enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA section 4056A to discuss educational technician contract and meet and consult with legal counsel to discuss legal rights and responsibilities per 1 MRSA 4056E. So is there a motion? Thank you, Board Member Figdor. Is there a second? Board Member Bryden, was that a second? Okay, beautiful. All those in favor of moving into executive session, raise your hand. Okay, beautiful. And Board Member Grant will also stay out of this executive session. We'll see you on the other side for adjournment. Okay, so you'll go to the other link that Superintendent Scallon sent this afternoon. Making sure everybody gets back into this space, including the 100 Ryan Scallons that are now back. Just a quick note, board members, I did send an email with an action step, a couple of action steps. So if you would please take a look at that email. It was sent out last night. Please take a look at that and complete the actions. Reminder, we do have a board retreat on Sunday, and I'll be sending a more detailed agenda out about that soon, but please bring a snack and a drink to share with folks. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Board Member Scallon is what my brain just told me to say, and I know that's not right. Board Member Aberman, and is there a second? Board Member Bryden, thank you. All those in favor of adjourning, you can raise your hand. Thank you very much. So we are adjourned at 8:25 p.m. Thank you all, and we'll talk soon. Stay warm, dry, and safe.